Hi everyone, welcome to Sho-Time Talk. This is your host, Tom Shimura. 皆さんこんにちは。Sho-Time トークを運営する志村智也です。今回はエンゼルスの地元紙オレンジカウンティレジスターで番記者を務めるジェフ・フレッチャーに皆さんからいただいた質問をぶつけます。最後までお楽しみください。
This follower said, I see Otani talking to other players. How good is his English?
Well, as I've said, we don't talk to him in English really, so I don't know. But when we do ask him questions, we can tell from just his facial reaction that he's understanding our questions. And also, as you say, we see him on the field talking to other players a lot, and Ippei's not out there. So obviously he's talking to them in English or maybe Spanish even in some cases. So I'm sure, now he's been here for 3.5 years. I'm sure his English has gotten much, much better. But I can't tell you firsthand exactly how good it is.
Have you talked to Ippei in person? What is he like in person?
Yeah, Ippei is really cool. I haven't obviously talked to him since before the pandemic when we were in the clubhouse, but I have had some conversations with him just around the clubhouse, and he's a really nice guy. And I think he's actually an important part of this whole process with Otani. As Joe Madden has mentioned, that Ippei is really good about making sure that everybody communicates well with Otani, and this whole process of having him play this two-way role and having him not be overworked and having them know what he feels like he can do has to do with communication with him. And so Ippei is a very important part of all that.
So this follower says, it feels like the Angels can win much easily if they bunt more. Why aren't they bunting more?
Well, pretty much nobody bunts anymore. I mean, if you're talking about bunting for a hit when there's a shift, which Otani has done a couple times, there is a case to be made for that, but it's got to be the right situation when, basically when you bunt, you're giving up the chance to hit a double or a homer, which is the reason that nobody bunts for hits against the shift very much. And when you're talking about sacrificing, I think that the math has shown over the years, as people have researched it, that you're better off not giving up the out to get the extra base, that the outs are more valuable than the extra 90 feet that you're gaining. So it's better off to just take the extra chance to get a hit than to give it up.
Why do Major League games start several minutes past the hour or half hour?
That's just for TV, basically. So if the TV broadcast comes on at 7 and then they don't have the game start till 7:10, it allows the TV station to have a little pregame show. They have a little bit of an intro, and they'll have some interviews, or the announcers will talk. They'll have some more commercials, basically, so they make a little more money. So basically that's what that little extra time is for.
How serious is the league in cracking down on the use of cork bats, steroids, and sign stealing? Do you feel the league is doing enough?
Well, as for corked bats, that's not really been a thing that anybody's talked about for a long time. There's been sort of rare instances of corked bats over the years, so it's not really a concern, I don't think. As far as steroids, they do have pretty regular steroid testing. The league is very serious about that, and I think that it has reduced steroid use a lot. Certainly hasn't eliminated it, because there's different things you can do that are undetectable. But every few weeks or every month or so, there's another player that gets suspended for steroid use. So they're on the lookout for that. And as for sign stealing, they changed a lot of the rules about the video room and who can be doing what to try to prevent people from doing that. And I think the one thing that you might notice this year as you watch games is you'll see every pitcher has a little card that he either keeps in his cap or keeps in his back pocket that has their different signs for when there's a runner on second base. So they basically makes it harder for the runners who are standing on second base to see the signs and send them to the hitter. So sometimes it makes the game go a little longer, because the pitcher's got to keep looking at his card and his hat. The catcher has a wristband that tells him what the signs are for that pitcher. And so every once in a while you see a new pitcher comes in, and then somebody brings the catcher a different wristband, because he's got to have the wristband that matches with that pitcher. So it's gotten very complex now in terms of preventing sign stealing.
Do other players also use the colored balls that Otani is using during warmups?
I think that some do. I think it's a driveline thing. Driveline is the center in Seattle. It's kind of a high-tech baseball factory, for lack of a better word, and they're weighted balls is what they are. It's definitely something that some guys really believe in, and certainly it's worked for Otani.
This follower says, it seems like Otani is no longer suffering from blisters. Has he overcome that issue?
I think that one of the issues with that was just how hard he was throwing. You remember in his first start of the year, he threw over 100, I think 8 times, and he threw a lot of fastballs. And I think that maybe that contributed to the blister issue because he just hadn't really thrown that hard that much. Obviously in spring training, he wasn't throwing 100 as often. So what I think has happened is as he's taken a little velocity off, I think that's probably made it a little easier on his fingers. I'm just guessing. It also could be just that it's built up, toughness in his skin as the season has gone on, and that has helped prevent the issue.
This follower says, I think he was able to become a two-way player in part due to his decision to come to the Angels, and I want him to stay on the team. Do you think that was the main reason Otani decided to come to Anaheim?
Well, I think that every team that was going to sign him was going to let him be a two-way player. So I don't think that was really an issue. I think that there were teams had nothing to lose, basically because they weren't putting any kind of a financial or very small financial risk into him. And I think any team would have let him try. So that's why a lot of people say, he could have waited 2 years and gotten $200 million. I think if he'd have done that, I don't necessarily think he would have been able to be a two-way player, because if a team is going to invest that kind of money, they would have wanted something safer. They would have wanted to make sure that he doesn't get hurt. If they value him as a pitcher, they don't want him going out there and getting hurt as a hitter, and they're spending $200 million for it. But at the time he came over, it was only $3 million, basically, is what the team gave him, which is nothing. So there was no risk in letting him do whatever he wanted to do, basically, if they could get him.
Why is Kurt Suzuki catching for Otani? This guy says his framing is not very good, and Max Stassi seems like a better fit.
That's true. Max Stassi is a better framer than Kurt Suzuki, but the catcher cannot catch every single game. So Kurt Suzuki is gonna have to catch somebody. And I think that Joe Madden just liked the matchup with Suzuki and Otani early in the season. They did well together, and so he's just stuck with that. He doesn't want to break up the combination. I think eventually he might. And a lot of what the catcher's job is really working with the pitcher and calling the pitches more so than just framing or blocking. And I think they have a pretty good relationship in terms of that.
This follower says, I'm a big fan of Otani and Jared Walsh. Since the Angels have already signed big contracts with Trout and Rendon, is it likely that the team may decide not to sign with Otani or Walsh in the future?
Well, I think Otani and Walsh are two totally different situations. Obviously, Otani is a superstar and doing something nobody else does, and he's very marketable. Jared Walsh has been a good player for 4 months, basically. So I think he's got a little ways to go before he has earned the right for a big contract. He also has less experience, so he's not even going to be eligible for free agency for 4 more years. So there's a ways to go before we have to talk about Jared Walsh.